Living Local Carolina with Katie Turner. Local trends, shopping, dining, and more. This is Living Local Carolina.
The following portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.
Well, good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on Living Local Carolina. This is our holiday edition show with the Beach Injury Lawyers, Will and Greg. Happy holidays, boys.
Happy holidays to you.
Good morning. A little festive.
Thank you. It's the most wonderful time of the year.
That it is.
Holiday parties.
It is. And y'all do look festive. And
We try our
am,
best.
as usual, I am boring.
It's okay.
But that's all right.
We accept
There's
you
one at
anyways,
every party.
Grinch. All right. So what do people need to know around this time of year, especially with holiday parties? If there's, some cocktails flowing, who's at fault if you get in trouble?
Well, and we've previously talked about, dram shop liability or the liability of bars and restaurants that overserve patrons. But that also applies to your host, your party host. So if you're having a holiday party and you're going to be serving alcohol, you got to be careful because you can be held responsible if one of your guests drinks too much, gets out, has a wreck, and injures another person. Then not only is the intoxicated driver can be held responsible, but you as the host can also be held responsible for over-serving that person. So, and a lot of people don't think about that.
No.
But,
Definitely not.
as personal injury lawyers, that's just kind of what we do.
Yeah.
We always put a damper on everything, from holiday parties to whatever. We just have a tendency.
You guys show up at the party and you're like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Oh yeah, we show up to parties
And ask for insurance.
Yeah, we're going to be looking for hazards and things of that nature.
But it's all good,
Well, it is. So you just, but if you're hosting a party, you got to be careful. You have to be careful.
I think Greg made a good point. So, but to delineate, I go to your party, I get drunk, I overserve myself or get overserved, and I leave and I get in a single car accident. That's on me. Okay, that's first party liability. It's injuring a third party. Now, the only exception would be minors. So one of the things Greg and I were talking about, if you're going to have a party, leaving the alcohol out unattended to be served, to serve yourself, not a good idea. If there's minors available, around.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things that you just have to be really, really careful when you're serving alcohol, especially in today's time, because we do live in a litigious society. We're part
Thank
of
goodness.
that. Yeah, we're part of that process. But Will had mentioned about the serving of minors. It is different. If you serve a minor and the minor injures themselves, then you are responsible for that.
Does that ever happen? Do you guys get calls like that where people get hurt at these parties and
We
stuff?
had a major case last year. Where,
Yeah, absolutely. There was a young lady that was, several people died. She was critically injured. They were all minors, and they were served alcohol at a party. And so it was a very, very, it was a horrendous crash. People were ejected from the cars, and again, just very serious injuries. So we do see that.
Yeah.
We do see that.
Jeez.
So
we want to give you some solutions, though.
Yeah, I was going to say, what do we need to know?
Well, insurance. That's where we always look.
Okay.
And there's different types of insurance. There's homeowners insurance, homeowners policies. If you have a homeowner's policy, I think you should make sure that it doesn't exclude alcohol. There could be exclusions. Any insurance policy is a contract, so they could exclude. We see that unfortunately, with dog bites. We see animal exclusions. We've had some cases where someone's been seriously injured by an animal. Person has extensive insurance, but the limitations of the dog animal exclusion will limit it to 25 or exclude it altogether.
an example is the Horry County Bar Christmas party.
Which, by the way, Greg is the new bar president.
Yay!
Thank you.
That's our big announcement today.
Owe it all to my mother. But it's held at Sea Captain's restaurant. So Sea Captain's, of course, has a alcohol liability policy, but we also have to go out and get an event policy, just in case.
All right, well, we've got more to talk about this topic, talking about holiday parties and safety, so stick with us. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Living Local Carolina, our holiday edition with the Beach Injury Lawyers. We've been talking about how to stay safe this season when you go to holiday parties, and you guys have a pretty significant example to share.
Well, what's a party without fireworks? Especially when
even call it a
the New Year's Eve, 4th of July, you're going to see a lot of fireworks. So a few years back, my children were smaller, but we were invited to a New Year's Eve party, and the host was providing alcohol, and he also was known to have a huge fireworks show.
Okay.
So, those two don't really mix very well.
There's a red flag thrown in there.
Yeah. So, I arrive and I see a trailer full of fireworks, and a significant amount of fireworks, and I also see a significant amount of alcohol, and so I'm thinking, all right, we're going to keep an eye on this, to make sure everything goes well. So eventually, after a couple of hours, the fireworks were all placed. This was out in the country. So the fireworks were placed on the road, paved road in front of the house. Then there was a yard that sloped up to the house. So the fireworks were divided up into 3 piles, 3 very large piles that were spaced out. So I was asked to go down and oversee one of the piles. So my children were sitting on the lawn up near the house. Now, at this time, there are a lot of intoxicated people at the party. And so several of us are down by the piles. Again, I'm still not crazy about this whole idea. When I see a drunk fella walking down the lawn with a half-empty bottle of sake in one hand and a sparkler in the other. And it was a lit sparkler.
Randy Quaid.
That's right. So he starts coming down towards my pile. I immediately tell him not to. I didn't use those words. I was a bit more colorful in my language to tell him, get away. Don't come down here. Well, the other guy at one of the other piles didn't realize that the drunk individual was coming with a lit sparkler. So as we're standing there and the families are getting ready for the fireworks show on the lawn, the middle pile exploded. And it was like a bomb went off. And everybody started running. Fortunately for me, I got away from my pile enough to where when it exploded, it only burned the back of my legs and the back of my arms, and I had sizzled hair, in the back of my head. And then the first pile down the road, it went off. So everybody is screaming and yelling and running for their lives. People are getting blown into the ditch by the road. The fireworks, the explosions set the forest on fire behind behind the piles.
Left craters in the road.
Yeah, there were massive craters in the road, not only through the asphalt, but into the road bed. And of course, the host got into a bit of trouble. So not only was he responsible for the repaving and reconstruction of the road, he was also responsible for the fire department being called out and having to put out the forest fire. Thankfully, there weren't any serious injuries, just minor burns, cuts, and scrapes. But if somebody would have been injured, seriously injured, then the host would have been responsible for that. So the moral we all look back on it and laugh now, but at the time, it was a very dangerous situation. So if you're going to mess with fireworks, don't be intoxicated when you do it, because
very careful.
those are incredibly dangerous. So that's just a story of what could happen.
That is quite the cautionary tale. And after the break, we're going to be talking more about this same topic, so stick with us.
We'll be back right after this break with more Living Local Carolina.
Well, thanks for sticking with us for this holiday edition of Living Local Carolina with the Beach Injury Lawyers. We just heard quite the cautionary tale from Greg about a party gone wrong with fireworks. I am still kind of in shock hearing that this happened. I'm very sorry that the backs of your legs got burned and you might have lost some hair.
We actually made T-shirts afterwards that said we had survived. I'm not going to use the guy's name, but we survived. Let's just call John. We survived John's New Year's Eve party, and we put the date. So
Yeah, it goes without saying fireworks and alcohol don't always mix. You need to be very, very careful. We all know somebody that something's happened to, right?
that's true.
Yes.
That's absolutely true.
I was just going to add to be respectful. I have a neighbor, last year lived in a gated waterway community, and one of our neighbors who I like a lot, we'll call him John. John used $22,000 worth of fireworks on New Year's Eve, and I mean, it was a heck of a party, but neighbors weren't very happy. Obviously, HOA rules were broken. Things were in the waterway, the debris was in neighboring yards, and if you're gonna have a party, just remember, and alcohol was obviously involved, just be respectful of others.
Be thinking of that before you have the party too. And you're spending a lot of money on fireworks.
And maybe talk to your neighbors. The neighbors didn't know the party was occurring. We lived across the street, wasn't a big deal to us, but the neighbors didn't know anything about the party, and they had just moved in, and I think that was part of the issue.
You also have to be aware of certain, obligations of inviting a bunch of people onto your property, into your house. So, you have to, if there's a dangerous condition on the property, you got to either fix it or you got to specifically inform everybody there that there is a dangerous condition on the property. So, that can be loose steps, that could be decking material, that can be holes in your lawn.
Oh yeah, that's a big one to think about.
Yeah, it can be, something sharp that's in the ground. This has been a few years, but there was a case where someone was hosting a fairly large party, and there was it was a metal container that had been buried in the backyard. It was a large yard, but it was sort of off in a corner, and the metal container had rusted over the years. So what you had was, you had a piece, probably 2.5 feet long, and it came up out of the dirt, probably 4 to 6 inches. Well, it just so happens that there was a 7-year-old child who was running and fell and went face first into the metal, part of the metal that was sticking out of the dirt. And it was a little girl, and it required multiple facial surgeries with a plastic surgeon. It literally cut her from the top of the forehead all the way down to the bottom of the chin. Thank God it barely missed her eye. But this child was seriously injured as a result of just something that you're not paying attention to. You just got to be careful.
Just be careful
Just
around
be
this
careful.
time of year.
Another example of inviting somebody to your property is inviting DoorDash, or inviting, if you have, we've had cases where people have gone as a delivery driver, gone to a house and there's been inadequate lighting. They've fallen because of stuff in the yard, so if you invite somebody to your property to bring you food, to drop off Walmart stuff, whatever, make sure things are well lit.
Yeah, that's good to note as well.
Yep.
All right, guys. Well, around this time of year, you might want to get some things in order. I know you guys have a special deal going on right now for our Living Local viewers. If you want to give the gift of this for Christmas.
Yeah, just to get your affairs in order. I mean, last will and testament, living will, just good things to have and a good time to think about it. I think it's the new year. So we're doing a special in January. It's actually better than the special we had offered before. So we're doing a will and a living will for an individual for $200 or for a couple for $400. You just need to call our office, 843-357-4111, and book during the month of January.
And what's the best way for people to get in contact with y'all?
Again, I'm going to give the number again, 843-357-4111.
Or www.beachinjurylawyers.com.
The preceding portion of Living Local Carolina is sponsored by Beach Injury Lawyers.